The palace of the Veyari Empire stood tall above the city, its silver towers shining in the light of two suns. Crowds gathered outside the great walls, whispering about the princess inside. She was not only their ruler's daughter but also the jewel of the empire. Her name was Princess Araya, and her beauty was spoken of across the galaxy. But beauty was not the only reason many sought her hand. Whoever married her would gain power, influence, and connection to the throne. And so, champions, warlords, and noble heirs from many species came to compete for her favor. Araya, however, felt little joy in this. She sat on the high balcony, looking down at the long line of suitors who had arrived. Their ships filled the landing grounds. Their armor gleamed. Their boasts echoed in the halls. To them, the princess was not a person. She was a prize to be claimed. Her father, Emperor Kalor, believed these contests would show strength and secure the empire's future. But to Araya, it felt like a cage. No one cared to know her heart. They wanted her throne more than her hand. This day, the emperor announced the beginning of another round of trials. Warriors would fight, struggle, and show who was worthy. The great hall of the palace was filled with alien lords and nobles, all waiting eagerly. Araya sat beside her father, her expression calm, though her heart was heavy. One by one, suitors stepped forward to bow. There was Garen, the reptilian war chief with scars across his chest. There was Varric, the noble-born commander of fleets. There was Drakthos, a beast-like warrior taller than 3 men. They all spoke with pride, promising victory, promising loyalty to the empire. Araya listened, but her mind drifted. She wondered if any of them saw her as more than a jewel. And then, the hall doors opened again. A man stepped inside, not wearing the armor of a great warrior nor the robes of a noble house. His clothes were plain, worn by travel. His face carried no crown, no scars of war. He looked human. Murmurs spread at once. A human? What is he doing here? Humans were not feared across the galaxy. They were not seen as strong. They were not wealthy nor rulers of great empires. Most species thought of them as small, fragile, and reckless. The man walked forward with calm steps, not rushing, not bowing too low. He reached the center of the hall and stood before the emperor. "I am Kale," he said simply, his voice steady. "I have come to compete." The hall erupted in laughter. Several suitors laughed so hard they clutched their stomachs. Others scoffed loudly. "A human? Compete? Against us?" The emperor raised a brow but did not dismiss him. "Do you know what you are asking, human? These trials are deadly. They are not games." Kale did not flinch. "I know. But I have come to stand among them, win or lose." From her seat, Araya leaned forward slightly. Her eyes studied him. There was no arrogance in his voice, no boast of strength, only calm determination. One of the suitors, Garen the reptilian, snarled, "You are nothing but prey among predators. Leave now before you die." But Kale only looked at him, then said, "Where I come from, we do not back down because someone is stronger. We stand, and we fight." The hall grew quiet for a moment. The laughter did not return so quickly this time. The emperor studied him, then gave a short nod. "Very well. If you wish to risk your life, then you may enter the trials. The blood of any who fall is on their own hands." Kale bowed his head slightly in respect, then stepped aside with the others. Araya's heart beat faster than she expected. She did not know why. The human was not the tallest, not the strongest, not the most skilled by appearance. And yet, in his calmness, there was something different, something real. That night, as the suitors returned to their chambers to prepare, Araya remained in her balcony looking at the stars. She thought about the human's words. "Where I come from, we do not back down." Simple words, yet powerful. None of the others had spoken like that. None had shown courage without pride. For the first time, Araya felt a spark of curiosity. Perhaps this human would fall in the first challenge. Perhaps he would surprise them all. She did not know. But she found herself waiting for the trials, with a new interest. And far below the palace, in his simple chamber, Kale sharpened a blade he had carried from Earth. His hands were steady, his eyes sharp. He knew the odds, but he had not come to bow, nor to beg. He had come to fight, because to him losing was never as bad as giving up. The trials of Suitors were about to begin, and the galaxy would soon learn what it meant when a human refused to back down. The morning sun rose over the Veyari Palace, painting the silver towers with gold. The great courtyard filled with suitors, their ships lining the marble landing grounds. The air buzzed with excitement. Today, the first challenge would begin. Princess Araya sat on her balcony, watching. Her curiosity about the human Kale had grown overnight. How could someone so small, so simple, survive among warriors bred for battle? The Emperor's voice boomed through the hall. "Welcome, suitors of the princess. Today begins the trials. You will prove your worth in skill, strength, and courage. Only the strongest will advance. Let none falter." The crowd erupted into cheers. Warriors stomped their feet and roared. Some called out challenges to others, eager to begin. Kale stepped forward calmly, ignoring the stares and whispers. A few humans had traveled the stars, but none had entered a contest of this scale. Most would have been terrified. Kyle was not. One of the largest suitors, a four-armed creature named Drakthos, laughed and stomped. "A human? You think you can stand among us? You will be crushed in the first round?" Kyle looked at him unafraid. "I may be smaller than you. I may not have 4 arms. But I have fought for things that mattered more than strength. I will not back down." Drakthos roared and advanced. The other suitors stepped back, thinking the human would fall immediately. The first trial was announced. "The trial of strength," a herald called. "You must lift the stones of your worlds, weight and place them atop the steps of the palace. Only those who complete it may proceed." Garen, the reptilian warlord, stepped forward, cracking his massive claws. The other alien warriors followed. Kyle took a deep breath. He could not match them in raw strength, but he had other skills. The trial began. Huge stones, each bigger than a human, were lifted by suitors. Some strained and roared, others threw the stones carelessly, cracking the marble steps. Kale observed first. He noticed the angles, the way the stones rested. Using careful leverage, he rolled a smaller stone slightly, then pushed it with both hands. Step by step he climbed. Some suitors sneered. "Pathetic," they hissed. "He will never reach the top." But Kale's focus never wavered. He adjusted his weight, used his balance, and found ways to move faster than his size should allow. In minutes he had placed his first stone atop the step, then another, then another. The crowd murmured. A human was actually moving faster than some of the alien warriors. Princess Araya's eyes widened. She had expected him to struggle, perhaps fail, yet he seemed calm, efficient, and clever. She had never seen such determination in any suitor. Drakthos, frustrated at his own slowing pace, bellowed and lifted a stone carelessly. It fell, cracking a step, and he snarled in anger. Kale, in contrast, stayed steady, placing each stone carefully. Finally, Kyle lifted the last stone, setting it perfectly atop the highest step. Silence fell across the courtyard. For the first time, no one laughed at him. The Emperor looked impressed. "Interesting," the Emperor muttered. "A human may survive longer than expected." The next trial was announced immediately. Dichrom, of speed and agility. This time, suitors had to cross a narrow bridge suspended above a deep canyon. Obstacles, traps, and swinging logs blocked the way. Only those who reached the other side without falling could continue. Most warriors charged, recklessly. Their strength allowed them to push through obstacles, but many fell or were knocked off by the swinging logs. Kyle moved differently. He observed the swings, calculated timing, and ran with precision. Where others smashed through, he jumped and dodged. Where others relied on brute force, he relied on balance and timing. The crowd gasped as the human ran across the bridge faster than several alien warriors, avoiding every trap. By the time Drakthos reached the last obstacle, Kyle had already landed safely on the other side. Princess Araya leaned forward. Her curiosity had turned into admiration. She had seen warriors fall, yet this human, so small, so ordinary, moved with skill, intelligence, and courage. The suitors were growing tense. They had trained their whole lives for these contests. Yet here was someone from another world, someone they had dismissed, outpacing them with simple, clever techniques. Garen hissed, approaching Kale. "Do not think this will last," he warned. "The final trials will break you. No human can withstand them." Kale looked at him, calm as ever. "I do not fear the trials," he said. "I fear only giving up." Even the Emperor's advisors murmured. None had expected a human to survive the first 2 rounds. Some began to wonder if this outsider could be more than just a curiosity. As the sun set, the first day of trials ended. Only a few suitors remained unbroken, and Kyle was among them. His victory was not complete, but his presence had already caused a stir. Princess Araya returned to her chambers that evening. She could not stop thinking about him. He was not like the other suitors. No one had ever fought with such calm determination. No one had moved with such cleverness. No one had made her feel curious. She remembered his words. The morning sun spilled across the Vayari palace courtyard, catching on the polished armor of the remaining suitors. The air was thick with tension. Rumors of the humans' unexpected success had spread quickly. Whispers ran through the crowd. Can a human really survive the trials? Princess Araya watched from her balcony, her curiosity stronger than ever. She had never seen a suitor move with such calm, such focus. While other warriors relied on brute strength, Kale had used his mind, his timing, and his cleverness. The next challenge was announced by the herald, the trial of combat and strategy. Each suitor would face multiple opponents in sequence, testing not only skill but the ability to adapt quickly. The first to step forward was Drakthos, the 4-armed beast. His size alone intimidated the others. He roared, shaking the arena walls. Most suitors knew he would be difficult, if not impossible, to defeat. Kale stepped into the arena. He had no armor like the other competitors. He carried only a simple staff worn from his travels. The crowd laughed softly. How could a human possibly face Drakthos? The trial began. Drakthos charged immediately, swinging his arms like wrecking machines. Several suitors had fallen under his might. Kyle, however, moved quickly. He dodged, ducked, and leapt with precision. Every strike was calculated, every movement deliberate. Araya held her breath. She had watched combat many times before, but Kale's style was different. He did not attack recklessly. He waited for openings, using the opponent's strength against him. Drakthos became furious. He swung harder, but Kale pivoted and redirected his momentum, causing the massive suitor to stumble. With careful timing, Kale tripped him, sending him crashing to the ground. The crowd gasped. No one had expected a human to topple Drakthos so quickly. Next came Garen, the reptilian warlord. He moved with precision and speed, his claws sharp and deadly. Kyle studied him quietly, anticipating his moves. When Garen lunged, Kale sidestepped, rolling gracefully across the arena floor. Using Garen's own momentum, Kale threw him off, balanced, then tapped him lightly with his staff to mark the victory. The suitors were stunned. One by one, Kale defeated each challenger using brains over brawn. He did not rely on raw strength, but on strategy, clever movement, and observation. Each victory brought more murmurs from the crowd. Princess Araya could not stop watching. Her heart raced with every move. He was human, small and fragile compared to the others, but he had skill no one had predicted. He fought with determination and intelligence, never panicking, never rushing. Even the Emperor watched closely. "Remarkable," he murmured. "The human may survive longer than any expected." The final match of the day was against Varric, a noble commander known for his fleet victories. Varric moved with elegance and precision, attacking like a storm. Kyle, tired but focused, studied him. Every feint, every jab, every step was observed. The duel lasted longer than the others. The crowd cheered for both warriors. Varric's strikes were fast and powerful, but Kale anticipated, dodged, and countered. He used the arena's pillars, bouncing off walls, ducking under swinging weapons, and keeping his balance perfectly. Finally, with a swift maneuver, Kale redirected Varric's momentum, causing the alien commander to stumble and kneel. The human had won. The crowd erupted into whispers and applause. Some cheered loudly. Some simply stared in disbelief. A human had defeated some of the strongest suitors of the Veyari Empire. Princess Araya's heart pounded. She had not expected him to survive this long, let alone win. His victories were not just impressive, they were something she had never seen before. Determination, courage, and intelligence combined in a way that made him extraordinary. After the trials, Kale returned to his chamber. He sat quietly, tending to minor scratches and bruises. He did not boast or celebrate. For him, winning was simply part of what he did. He had survived the first real combat challenge, but he knew the trials were far from over. Word of Kale's victory spread quickly throughout the palace. The defeated suitors grumbled, unable to accept that a human had surpassed them. Many whispered that luck had played a part. Few admitted that his skill, intelligence, and courage had made the difference. That evening, Princess Araya walked through the gardens, thinking of the human. She remembered each movement, each clever strike, and the calm in his eyes. Most suitors had sought her approval through boasting or fear. Kyle had not asked for anything. He had acted for himself, for his values, and yet his actions spoke louder than words. She realized something new. Curiosity had turned into admiration, and for the first time in many years, she felt something like hope. Perhaps not only for the contest, but for what she could feel in choosing someone who truly stood out. Not because of lineage or armor or strength, but because of character. Meanwhile, Kale looked up at the twin moons from his balcony. He reflected on the day's victories. He had survived battles no one expected him to endure. Yet he was not proud in a loud way. He felt steady, calm, and ready for the next challenge. Strength is not everything, he whispered to himself. Cleverness, patience, and heart matter more. As night fell, the palace lights glimmered across the city. The human had proven himself in the first major trials, but the hardest challenges were still to come. Stronger opponents, trickier, tasks and tests of courage awaited, and Princess Araya, high above in her chambers, watched silently. She did not know what the future held, but she felt certain of one thing. Kale was unlike any suitor she had ever seen, and perhaps, just perhaps, this human would continue to surprise them all. The day of the final duel arrived. The palace courtyard was filled with spectators, their excitement echoing through the silver towers. The strongest suitors, the ones who had survived every trial, stood ready. Their eyes were sharp, their bodies tense, but all attention was on one figure, the human, Kale. Princess Araya watched from her balcony. Her pulse quickened. She had followed him through every challenge. Each time he had defied expectations. Each time he had proven that strength alone did not win battles. Today, however, the stakes were highest. The final duel would decide who could truly claim her hand. The Emperor stepped forward, raising a hand to silence the crowd. This duel will test all skills, strength, strategy, and courage. The victor will be worthy of the princess. Let the final trial begin. From the other side of the arena, a towering figure stepped forward. Lord Drakthos, the four-armed warrior who had once been unstoppable. His muscles rippled, his claws gleamed, and his eyes burned with fury. He had been defeated by Kyle once, but he had not forgotten. His pride demanded a rematch. Kyle stood calmly. He had minor scratches from earlier trials, but his eyes were steady. He did not rush, he did not flinch, and he did not speak. He simply waited, studying his opponent. The moment the duel began, Drakthos charged. His four arms moved in unison like a storm of metal and muscle. Most warriors would have been crushed instantly, but Kale moved differently. He dodged, rolled, and leapt with precise timing. Every strike that came toward him was met with patience, never panic. The crowd gasped. No one had ever seen a human fight like this. His movements were fluid, intelligent, and careful. He did not rely on brute force. He relied on prediction, timing, and the smallest openings in his opponent's defense. Drakthos roared, swinging harder, faster. His rage made him reckless. Kyle noticed this immediately. He waited, baiting the giant warrior, then used his momentum against him. A quick pivot, a small push, and Drakthos stumbled. The crowd's shock was visible even from the balconies. Next, Varric, the noble commander, attacked. He moved with elegance, striking with precision and speed. Kale's eyes followed each movement carefully. He ducked under a strike, rolled behind a pillar, and countered with a precise tap from his staff, not to harm, but to mark victory according to the rules of the duel. The audience could not believe what they were witnessing. The human, small, and seemingly fragile, was defeating the most powerful suitors of the Veyari Empire. Each victory was not luck. Each move was clever, deliberate, and full of courage. As the duel continued, Kale faced multiple opponents in succession. Each warrior brought their own strength and style. Some relied on raw power, others relied on complex weaponry. Kale adapted, observing every movement, learning from every strike, and never losing focus. Princess Araya could barely breathe. Her eyes followed every step, every feint, every dodge. She had watched countless suitors try and fail, but none had moved like this. None had fought with such calm determination, such skill, such heart. Drakthos, growing furious, swung wildly, but Kale anticipated every strike. He dodged, used the giant's weight against him, and with a clever maneuver finally brought the massive warrior to his knees. Silence fell across the arena. No one had expected a human to survive this long, let alone defeat the strongest suitor. Of all, Kyle stood quietly, breathing steadily. He had not celebrated, nor had he shown arrogance. His eyes, calm and focused, reflected not pride, but determination. The Emperor rose from his seat, nodding in approval. "Remarkable," he said. "The human has not only survived, but proven skill beyond measure. Truly the victor has earned the right to stand before the princess." The defeated suitors looked on with disbelief, and in some cases, grudging respect. They had trained their whole lives to reach this point. Yet one human, smaller and weaker by tea? The courtyard was quiet now, filled with tension. The final duel had ended, and the victor stood before Princess Araya. The surviving suitors, some wounded, some bruised in pride, watched in disbelief. None expected the human, Kyle, to rise above them all. Whispers ran through the palace. "A human?" one noble asked. Did she truly choose him? Princess Araya's gaze did not waver. She had watched Kale through every trial, every challenge, every impossible moment. He had not fought for wealth, glory, or power. He had fought with courage, intelligence, and a heart that refused to give up. Now she had to make her choice clear, not just for herself, but for the Empire. The Emperor cleared his throat, his voice echoing through the halls. "Princess Araya, the trials are complete. The victor has proven skill, strength, and courage. Who shall you choose as your champion, your suitor, and your companion?" The crowd fell silent. Some expected her to follow tradition, to pick one of the powerful alien warriors. But Araya's heart knew the answer. She stepped forward, her eyes locked on Kyle. "My choice," she said, her voice calm and steady, "is the human who has proven himself in every trial." Kyle. Gasps erupted. Some nobles muttered their disapproval. "A human," they whispered. "She cannot be serious." Others stared in awe. They had never seen such courage, such conviction in the princess before. Kale looked at her, stunned. He had fought for honor, for survival, for courage, but he had not expected this. He took a deep breath, then bowed respectfully. "Princess Araya, I am honored beyond words. I will do my best to stand beside you." Some suitors stepped forward, their pride wounded. Garen hissed, his eyes narrowing. She cannot choose a human over us. This is an insult. Princess Araya lifted a hand. Enough, she said firmly. The trials were fair. The outcome is clear. Kale has shown qualities none of you have. Strength is not the only measure of worth. Courage, intelligence, and respect matter as well. My choice stands. The Emperor nodded. Though surprised, he respected her decision. Very well, the princess has spoken. Let all witness that the victor, the human Kale, is worthy of her hand. Some of the crowd cheered quietly. Others whispered, still in disbelief. The palace had never seen a human chosen in such a way. It was unprecedented. Princess Araya walked closer to Kyle. She studied him, really studied him, not just as a winner of trials, but as a person. You did not fight for power, she said softly. You did not seek attention. You fought because you refused to give up. That is why I chose you. Kale's eyes met hers. I respect you, princess. I respect your choice. I never sought this for myself. I only wanted to do my best, and I am grateful that it was enough. The defeated suitors could only watch. Some were bitter, others humbled. Even Drakthos, the four-armed warrior, nodded slowly. You fought with honor, he admitted, lowering his head. I underestimated you, human. You have earned her choice. Princess Araya smiled faintly. For the first time, she felt free from expectation. She had chosen not for tradition, not for politics, not for glory, but for herself. The court slowly adjusted to the new reality. Humans had always been seen as weak, unimportant, and fragile. Now, one human had not only survived the deadliest trials, but had also earned the heart of the most admired princess in the galaxy. That evening, the palace celebrated quietly. The formal announcement of her choice spread across the empire. Many were shocked, but some began to whisper of change. Perhaps humans were more capable than they had imagined. Perhaps courage and intelligence mattered more than size and power. Kyle, despite the praise and attention, remained humble. He had not come to impress, nor to win the princess. He had come because he could not back down. And now, as he stood beside her, he felt a new sense of responsibility, not just to her, but to the people who watched them and learned a lesson about courage and determination. Princess Araya watched him quietly. She saw the steadiness in his gaze, the calm courage in his stance, and the respect he showed to everyone around him. She felt a warmth in her heart. She had chosen wisely, she realized. This human was not only brave, but honorable, clever, and true. You have changed how many see humans, she said softly, speaking just to him. Kale smiled slightly. I hope it is not just about me. I hope it shows that anyone from any world can rise if they refuse to give up. Araya nodded. Then we will rise together. The Empire slowly began to accept the unprecedented decision. Nobles still whispered, but many were impressed. Stories of Kale's victories and courage spread quickly. Some even began to see humans differently, not as weak or insignificant, but as clever, determined, and brave. As the night fell, the two of them stood on the balcony overlooking the city. The twin moons reflected on the silver towers, and the palace shimmered in soft light. Princess Araya felt a sense of peace she had never known. Kyle, standing beside her, felt the weight of what had happened, but also the excitement of what was to come. He had survived impossible trials, defeated the strongest suitors, and now stood with the princess. Yet he knew this was only the beginning. Challenges, politics, and dangers would come. But for the first time, he felt ready, not just to survive, but to stand beside someone he respected, someone who had chosen him for who he was, not for his power or wealth or strength. And Princess Araya, for the first time in her life, felt that she had chosen not only wisely, but bravely. She had chosen courage, respect, and heart over tradition. The Empire had seen the trials. The suitors had fallen, and a human had changed the course of history, one brave step at a time. Together, Kale and Araya looked to the future, one filled with unknown challenges, incredible adventures, and a bond forged not by expectation, but by respect, courage, and the rarest of qualities, true character. The palace of the Veyari Empire glimmered under the twin moons. The news had spread across the city. Princess Araya had chosen the human, Kale, as her companion. The decision shocked many, but it also inspired hope. Some nobles grumbled, unable to accept a human as worthy. Yet whispers of admiration grew louder. Across the empire, people spoke not of his species, but of his courage, intelligence, and honor. Kale had proven that strength was not the only measure of worth. Inside the palace, Araya walked beside Kale. She felt proud, not of a title or tradition, but of her choice. For the first time, she felt completely free from expectations. She had chosen someone who reflected what truly mattered: heart, determination, and respect. Kale remained calm, though inside he felt the weight of attention and expectation. He had survived trials no one believed he could, defeated the strongest suitors, and earned the princess's trust. Now, he had to prove himself as her equal, not through battles, but through character and courage. The emperor approached, his expression thoughtful. "Kale," he said, "you have shown extraordinary skill and wisdom. The empire will take time to understand this choice. Know that you have my respect." Kale bowed respectfully. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I will not fail the trust given to me." Outside the palace, the citizens of the empire whispered among themselves. Many were shocked at first. How could a human, so small and unassuming, stand beside the princess? Yet as word of his victories spread, their admiration grew. They began to see that determination, intelligence, and courage were qualities anyone could have, regardless of species. Princess Araya watched silently as Kale interacted with the court. He did not boast, he did not act superior. He simply spoke with respect, treated others fairly, and showed humility. Slowly, the court began to accept him. Even some of the defeated suitors began to nod in acknowledgement. They had seen something real, a human who had defied every expectation. The princess smiled, remembering the moment she first noticed him. He had walked calmly into the great hall, unarmed, unassuming, yet determined. He had survived every trial, defeated the strongest warriors, and earned her respect without even trying to impress her. Kale turned to her, sensing her thoughts. "Are you worried?" he asked softly. "About what?" she replied. "About what others think. About the empire, the nobles, the stories that will spread." Araya shook her head. "I have made my choice. They may question it, but they cannot change it. You have proven yourself in every way that matters." Kyle smiled faintly. "Then we move forward together." The next days were filled with preparation. The palace was alive with energy. Messages were sent to other planets. Ambassadors arrived, and the news of the princess's unprecedented choice reached far corners of the galaxy. Humans were often underestimated, but now, one human had changed perceptions forever. In private moments, Kale and Araya trained together, practiced diplomacy, and explored the palace. Araya learned about Kale's homeworld, his struggles, and his mindset. She admired his resilience and his refusal to give up, even when faced with impossible odds. Kyle, in turn, learned about the responsibilities of ruling, the politics of the empire, and the challenges Araya faced daily. He had fought battles before, but these were new kinds of challenges, ones that required strategy, wisdom, and patience. One evening, as they walked through the palace gardens, Araya spoke quietly. "The empire will need time to accept this. Many will not understand why I chose you." Kale took her hand gently. "Then we will show them. Not through force, not through fear, but through actions. By standing together, respecting each other, and leading with courage and heart, we will prove it." Araya nodded. She felt